Much like in hockey, the best team won't win much without a good netminder behind the defense. One of the best teams Richmond has ever seen was the 1995 Richmond Kickers, who had just such a goalkeeper that year. Now, a generation later, they are hoping history repeats itself by going back to that same family. In just its third year of existence, the Richmond Kickers reached the pinnacle of U.S. soccer. They won the U.S. Open Cup, a yearly tournament open to any team in the country. This was 1995, before MLS existed, and the Kickers hoarded a roster full of talent that would eventually move on to higher levels. Current Kickers general manager Rob Ukrop was on that team and remembers how quickly it came together as a group.
You know, that is the hardest thing with any team, whatever the sport, trying to find that camaraderie, and I think that's one of the things that we had really strongly in 1995.
Camaraderie of that team as the year went along, how we came along, how the team got formed. It was just something that just took off.
Jeff Causey was the goalkeeper on that team, fresh off 4 years playing at Virginia and quickly establishing himself as the backbone of the roster.
You know, having a leader like Jeff Causey in the back of the net was incredible. Super calm guy, great presence, just, you know, you looked at him and you felt like he was going to make a save.
Many of those players moved on to have MLS careers and win championships at other levels. But that title was now 26 years ago, and the next generation is already here. Austin Causey was just 2 when his dad retired from playing and has only his father's stories and old videotapes to understand how good that team was and what his father meant to it.
It took a while. You know, honestly, I think growing up, it was kind of like I always saw him as my dad. As I got older and as I started to understand more, seeing him and seeing his game tapes and watching what he did, it was like, all right, Dad, you know, you got some credit.
Austin played both soccer and baseball growing up, but his father never pressured him into playing his sport or his position.
He always found himself further and further back, closer to the goal. Maybe not in the goal, but he always, you know, it was like, why do you keep going back? Why don't you go forward? Why don't you go score? He's like, I don't trust anybody. I want to protect the goal. He had that protection mentality.
Jeff admits that a great deal of Austin's athletic resolve actually comes from his mother.
My wife was probably harder on him than I was when it came to sports. If he got beamed in the head, it wasn't, oh, are you okay? It was, well, you should have caught it, right? And that didn't come from me, by the way.
I would say he has a little more venom than his dad. His dad was a little more steady of a presence. Austin's got a little bite to him, and I really like that.
Austin has now signed with the Kickers, following in Dad's footsteps. At first, Jeff thought his old teammate was doing him a favor by adding the son to the roster. But everyone has quickly seen Austin's progression and promise. He was not given this opportunity because of his last name or his legacy.
Because regardless of what your dad did or what you've done up to this point, now the real work starts. You've got to become a pro player, and it's up to you to ascend.
He's a lot further along than they expected him to be, and they felt that he could really have a good tenure there in Richmond. So I'm extremely proud of where he is right now.
Austin is the first second-generation player in Kickers history. And if there is any pressure to be as good as his father was in this team's infancy, it's not coming from the organization or the parents.
You know, pressure is a good thing. If you go with it the right way, he can definitely fuel that fire as I did, right? Always feeling like the underdog. He can kind of take that and go with it.
My dad has always put that I'm on my own path. I'm thankful for the connection I have with him, but I see myself as my own person, and I mean, yeah, I've never felt any real pressure to be like my dad.
Right now, I'm the steward of the ship of the longest running pro team in the country, and it's my job to perpetuate that. And Austin just makes my life really easy because his dad was great and he's great, and hopefully he takes off and does all the same things his dad did for us.
Austin is one of 3 keepers that Sawaski has on his roster this year, all of whom he is comfortable starting on any given night. Jeff admits that Austin is much farther along at his age than his father was. Kickers fans will hopefully get to judge for themselves really soon. If you'd like to nominate someone to be profiled, email us at beyondtheroster@WTVR.com.